Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Thank you so much for all your good wishes over the last few days. I'm really glad to be back in my craft room again. I'm still feeling a little bit ropey, but nothing like as bad. I've definitely turned the corner. So excuse me if I'm still sounding a bit croaky and snotty. I'll do my best to edit any really gruesome bits out. So I thought I'd do something a bit fun and hopefully not too difficult today. If you're a regular viewer, you might have heard me mention that I haven't kind of made New Year's resolutions as such for 2023, but I like the idea of having a kind of mantra, if you like. I've got 3 this year. Use it or lose it is an important one. I've got far too much stuff in here. I'm pretty good actually. Most of it is here because I love it and I know I will use it again, but I know there's some stuff I've had hoarded for ages and not got around to, so that's one of the things. And when I say lose it, I don't mean I'm going to throw loads of stuff away. It'll be either, you know, if I'm not going to use it, it'll be given away, donated, or recycled if need be. And then there's reclaim, recycle, reuse, and you know, it kind of goes along with this whole this use it or lose it thing. Kind of goes along with not keep buying stuff. I shall be carrying on having my monthly scrawler box, and I've got my bi-monthly surprise box collab I'm doing with Just Johnny Creations, so we'll keep on doing that. But that fits quite well into, because a part of what we put into the boxes is what we've already got in our craft room, so it all fits in quite well. And what was the third thing? Finish it. Finish what you started. If you've started a project, finish it. I've got some things, I'll show you one, hang on. Got a little bag here of things I started making up when I did the cyanotype printing back last summer. Ready to do the tokens slow stitching project, so I'm going to be starting that soon. And then this little basket of body parts is a soft, I love how those hands came out. It's a soft body doll I started making before I moved to Norwich, so to Norfolk, so that was 2006. So these have been knocking around for nearly 20 years. I mean, that's a bad UFO, isn't it? Unfinished object. 20 years. So that one's going to be coming out soon. I should be finishing that. The only body part I haven't got there is the head. I think I chickened out and I was moving and everything, and I just, yeah. So what I'm going to try today, this is something I picked up in a charity shop. Let me show you. So I picked this up, you can see, for £4.50, which I thought was pretty reasonable. It doesn't look like it's been opened. It's a paper making kit, and I've always quite fancied having a go at that. So it says Flights of Fancy Paper Making, the art of making beautiful paper. Make your own paper with the deckle, mould and press included in this kit, complete with a 24-page booklet with lots of facts and history on paper making. I mean, it may be that this is aimed at kids, but that's probably good, because it means I should be able to cope with it. And what I'm kind of hoping is that I'll be able to use the tools in here and learn the method and be able to recycle some of the other paper that I would otherwise just throw into my recycling bin. So let's see. It's a nice strong sturdy kind of box. Let's get this label off, it's really annoying me. I don't know how much this kit would have cost in the first place. Oh, it does annoy me when they put these labels on. I mean, this was this was before Christmas. They'd got a special sort of set of shelves there with things on that obviously were grouped together because they would all make quite good Christmas presents. And indeed, this would have made an excellent Christmas present. But it would have been annoying if it was a Christmas present and I couldn't take the label off, especially when it's a charity shop one. I don't think easy peel labels cost that much more. Okay, let's have a look. Quite exciting. Oh, that is a very nice sturdy box. Definitely not been, it's not even been opened, has it? Someone's been given that as a present at some point. Okay, paper making history and instructions. Rags make paper, paper makes money, money makes banks, banks make loans, loans make beggars, beggars make rags. That sounds like a Dickens quote or something, I don't know if it is. Okay. I like that it's got a bit of history with it. Gutenberg, the printing press. Rags were the main raw material. I know a lot of people made their living from collecting up rags. In fact, there was still a rag and bone man. I remember when I was a kid, I can still remember Just talking away to you here as if you really can't. I can still remember as a kid it was a I'm not that old, but it was a horse-drawn. We lived in London, and it was a horse-drawn rag and bone cart. And I can still hear the guy, I can still hear the voice. You'd hear the clip clop, and you could hear this guy going, rag bone, rag bone. These days there's one out near where my son lives, and but he drives around in a van, and he's got like a tannoy system, so he blasts it out. You can hear him coming from miles away, but same principle though. And there have always been people who make a living from scooping up all the stuff the rest of us would be throwing away. That's a nice, quite a bit of history about it. Okay, making paper. This is what I will need. Uh-oh. Oh, liquidize. Oh. Well, I'm going to struggle with that as I haven't got a food processor. I haven't got much in the way of fancy gadgets like that. I have got one of those stick blenders, and we really could do with a new one. I wonder if that would do it. Could use the old one. Well, I'm not going to get very far with this then, am I? Let's see what we can do. Let's have a look at what's in here. So these dried flowers must be for putting petals in, because you quite often see paper with petals in, don't you? This is... I expected to find something that said included in the kit. Oh, don't know. This is something I'm going to be doing an awful lot of, but hey, let's try using it. It should have been obvious that I would need something to pulp it with. Let's just have a look and see what's in here. I did expect to see a list of like contents. So these must be the screws and things that screw all this together. It's clearly never been used. I've gone away and done a bit of research online and made a bit more sense of it now in my head. So let's go back. In a minute I'm going to show you a brilliant YouTube channel which I think is going to be really helpful. I think I've got almost everything I need in here. I've worked out what everything is. I'm fairly certain that this is the deckle with just a frame. You can adapt. You can make this yourself with picture frames. Just pick up a couple of picture frames from a charity shop or whatever if you've got some lying around, and take everything away except for the frame. So there's I think this is the mould. This is what you scoop your paper pulp up in, and this is the deckle. But either way, you need two frames the same size, and one of them needs to have like a fine mesh. You could use various things for mesh as well. The YouTube channel I'm going to show you in a minute, I'm sure she covers how to actually make up your own little kit. So these are going to make quite small bits of paper. If I really enjoy doing this, I might consider making myself up a bigger set, but I wouldn't go and buy it, especially I think having had a good look online now, I'd have a go at making it myself. What was confusing me as well was this bit, but this is a press, so this is a nice little bonus to have this, because you could, this is for flattening the paper if it needs it, so you could just do that under weighty books and things, but it's nice to have this. So you put your dried sheets of paper in here, and then you put these kind of bolts and nuts on to screw it together tightly and leave them sitting for a few hours till they come out lovely and flat. So the only other things I'm going to need is some, I've got this is an old part of an old sheet, sheet from a bed linen set that we don't use anymore, so I need to cut this into pieces to dry my paper sheets on. I think this is going to be the easiest way to do it, and the most economically friendly. I don't want to be using a lot of paper towels that have got to be thrown away, because what's the point of making recycled paper? I want to make my paper out of recycled paper, and I don't want to create more waste in the making of it. So if I do these, I can use them over and over again, and if I don't get on with it, I can use them for my quilting. Nothing wasted. So I'm going to cut these into pieces, you know, just slightly bigger than these frames. So I'm going to need that. Excuse me, it's still sounding so snotty. Obviously I'm going to need some paper to start with. There's all kinds of things you can use. I think I'm going to avoid using newspaper, because I just think it's going to make it really quite grey. One of the things I've found out reading about it is that if you use sort of better quality, stronger paper with longer fibres, you're going to get a better quality paper out of it, and you don't want to sort of blend it too much when you're pulping it, because that'll make the fibres too short. So I'm going to have to experiment a bit. In the way of equipment, the other thing I'm going to need, a couple of things I'm going to need: washing up bowl. I've got an old, any kind of tub. Some people suggest using those, like if you've got a plastic storage container. It needs to be something sort of with a bit of depth to it, I think, so that you can scoop the paper pulp up. I've got an old washing up bowl I can use for that. Blender. I didn't think I had a blender, and apparently you can do it. As obviously it's going to take more time and it's harder work with something like a potato masher or a pestle and mortar, which is what I'd considered using. Then I remembered I have got a blender. It's an old one, a little dinky one I used to use for grinding curry spice pastes and things. I tend to do that in my big pestle and mortar now because I just don't like getting noisy equipment out in the kitchen. So I'm going to make that my craft room blender now and hope that that will work. It'll only do small quantities at a time, but I think I can make it work. Now, so I'm going to cut these into pieces. I'm going to use, for my first experiment, I'm going to use, we have this Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. One of the reasons we have it is that instead of it being all wrapped in plastic, it's wrapped in paper, which can be recycled. And I actually keep these sheets because I have been known to wrap up birthday presents and things in it, only for people who I know will get it. I've actually made before 1,000 cranes by cutting tiny squares out of this and making 1,000 origami cranes. Okay, here we are. This is a picture of my 1,000 cranes all hung up there at the end of one of my bookcases. This is my cookery book bookshelves. Yes, they are arranged in rainbow order. Yeah, 1,000 origami cranes made out of toilet paper wrapping. It may just be possible that I have too much time on my hands, eh? Okay, so I'm going to use these. I think this will give me plenty. I don't think this is too, it's quite a smooth paper. I imagine it's going to be quite a strong one with fairly long fibres. I know they use recycled paper anyway, so it's already been recycled at least once. I think this will make, and I'm not sure what will happen with the colours. Will they all merge together and go muddy? I'm hoping I'll just see little flecks of colour, but I don't know. We'll find out. I think this is a good first experiment for me. So I need to tear these into little pieces and leave them soaking for a few hours overnight. I'll tear them up in a minute. Watch a bit of YouTube or something, sit and tear these up, leave them soaking, and I will come back tomorrow and start the pulping process. But before I do that, before I go off and do that, let me just show you this brilliant YouTube channel I found. Hang on. So here we are. She's called Nevermind Paper, and I particularly liked this little, I mean, she gives all kinds of tutorials, really useful tips and things. She shows you different bookbinding methods as well, which is brilliant. Look at this one. She's got things like using recycled toilet rolls to turn into paper. She did a little series called Will It Paper, and basically what she's doing is trying all kinds of different things to see if she can make them into paper. So one is out of empty tea bags, and she made some beautiful papers with that, quite fragile. So I'm going to start saving toilet rolls again and tea bags. We don't have a lot of tea bags, but we do get some. Well, she's done with one with wrapping paper here. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely? All your old wrapping paper, turn it into a journal. How fantastic. So I love the idea of combining a fun, you know, a fun hobby of making my own paper with recycling, because it's something that's really important to me. I think it's a very important thing for us all to be doing, and rather than just put it in the recycling bin, if I can recycle it myself and make it to something useful, I think that'd be brilliant. She's just got, she's made colour changing paper there. I don't think she's really eating it. Yeah, she's just got so many ideas, and she's really dryer lint paper. And also I can use, let's go back to, I can use other bits and pieces. I'm going to try this basic method first, and then I can try incorporating, apparently you can incorporate onion skins, rhubarb, and I could try colouring it with things like beetroot when I have, and I've got beetroot skins about. I've got things like, I keep my orts jar stuffed full where I put like snippings of thread and stuff where I've been working on things. They all get shoved in here, just basically all the bits that are far too small to use for anything else, and those little snippets of thread and stuff, those could be incorporated as well. I could put anything in there really. I bet there's all kinds of things in this room that could be incorporated into paper making. And even if it's not fantastic paper, she's managed to make print paper that will even go through a printer. But even if it's not fantastic, if it's just a little rough sketchbook for myself, or you know, something that I can use to wrap small gifts, or I don't know, I just think it's got to be worth a go. So I've gone from feeling a bit when I first opened it thinking, oh, maybe this will go straight back to the charity shop, to now I feel quite fired up to have a go. So I'm going to stop recording now, cut these pieces of fabric up, get this torn up and soaking, and then I'm ready for the next stage tomorrow. Hello and welcome back. I'm actually all ready to go out but I can't resist just making a start on the next stage of my paper making, and then I'll be all ready to move on again tomorrow, hopefully. What I'm hoping to do today is get my pulp ready at least. So I've got my little kit here that's got the mould and deckle and the press if I get to that point, and then I've gathered up a few extra things. This is the little dinky blender that I used to use for making curry pastes and pestos and things in. I'm hoping that's going to work to do my pulp, otherwise it's going to be back to plan A and use a pestle and mortar, or just tear it up or potato mash it or something, because I'm not going to be buying a blender especially for this, especially, well, at least not until I know it's something I'm definitely going to enjoy. I think once I've used it for this, I can't really go back to using it for food if I'm going to be putting all kinds of things in it, making paper, you know. So I've got my pieces of fabric ready cut up to drop the paper onto and hang it up to dry. I've got a big towel I'm going to lay them out on to dry, or as I'm working on them. Apparently it's a lot quicker if you actually hang them, so that's probably what I'll do. We'll see how it goes. I've got a sieve for sieving my pulp. Apparently you have to experiment a little bit when you're blending, so depending on your blender, depending on the size of the paper and the type of the paper, you might need to add more liquid. And then the idea is that you sieve quite a bit of the liquid out, but not all of it. You don't want a dry lump, you want quite a slushy pulp. This is just what I've looked at online so far. So let me show you what I've got on the desk. So this is my torn up bits of paper. So it was the Who Gives a Crap toilet paper wrappers. They've been soaking since yesterday afternoon, so they've had about 24 hours. They've gone quite soft, but they've still got a lot of structure to them. So I guess that means they have got longish fibres in them, and they're going to make quite a good sturdy paper for me, I hope. What I'm really looking forward to is to see how it turns out. I hope that I'm going to get some bits of bright colours, speckles of bright colour in there, and not just the whole lot kind of grey, you know. But either way, I will be pleased if I can just make usable paper out of it. So they've been soaking in this, but this isn't deep enough. I don't think it is anyway, deep enough to do the paper making in, because you need to be able to get your a mould in there and sluice it about and then lift it up, and I think it needs to be deeper. So I've also got a washing up bowl down here full of water. So I think, because I've not got a lot of room in here, and it's a bit tricky in terms of plugging in, I've not got a very long lead, so I think I'm going to have to take this down to pulp it downstairs to the kitchen, and then I'll come back up and show you what it looks like. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Well, it's going really well so far. I'm very happy with that. I actually was dreading that part, and it's only taken me about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes to do. That little blender worked like a charm. So hopefully the next stage is going to be equally successful. Let me show you how it went. So here's my paper pulp. That's what I got out of the toilet roll wrappers that I showed you. I've sieved some of the water out. I don't know if it's perhaps not quite enough. I think experience is the only way I'm going to find out. It's interesting that, you know, some bits came out, obviously that's more yellow, that's more pink. If I wanted to in future, I could actually split those wrappers up and control the colours a bit, which would be fun. So I might do that another time. It feels right. It feels, there are some bigger pieces in here. But I didn't want to end up, like I said before, with just a big grey sludge. I wanted some bits in there, so I'm hoping these bigger bits won't stop it holding together. It reminds me a little bit of like when you're making a, you know, a hummus or something like that, where you don't want it all completely smooth. You want a bit of texture in it, but you don't want it too rough, or it's not dippable. And sometimes what I used to end up doing with things like that was I would make most of it really, really smooth so it would hold together, and then I'd leave some really coarse and stir them together. And that's kind of what I've done with this. Some bits I did really let go for a bit longer, and some bits some batches I left quite coarse. It did say that if your blender is struggling, put more water in. I didn't find I needed a lot of water really. Yeah, that was all relatively painless so far. So I'm not sure how well I'm going to do being able to do this at this desk. If I can't, I'll have to go to this extra little table here that I've got by me and see if I can record myself standing up. I don't know how well it's going to work. But we'll see if it, because I think you'll get a better view of it here if I can do it here. So this is my mould and deckle. I might have it the wrong way around, but I think this is the deckle and this is the mould, but I could be completely wrong. And I would have thought you were going to use it this way up, but no, you don't. You use it this way up. Oh, I've just realised something else I'm going to need is a sponge. Okay, couldn't find a sponge in a hurry, so I've got this old tea towel which I think is absorbent and will do the job hopefully. So let's make myself a bit of space to work in here. Let's be a bit organised. One of my cloths ready to go, and I've got a towel to my side to drop them onto when they're done and ready to dry. Being optimistic. And sometimes, depending on what fabric you're using, you might need to damp this cloth to make the paper stick to it, but if it's cotton you should be alright. I think this is a poly cotton, so I'm hoping I'll be alright. If it won't stick, I'll have to try damping it next time. I'm out of breath from running up and down the stairs. That's still the remains of my chesty cold. Okay, so I've got my deckle, I'm calling it deckle, and my mould, and I'm holding them together like that. And then you drop handfuls of the soggy paper pulp into the water, quite a lot of water. That might not even be enough. So you drop it in like that and you stir it around to mix it up. I'm going to go for a little bit more. If you put too much, it'll end up too thick, too little and it'll end up too thin. I've got a feeling I've erred on the side of too much there, and then you want to stir it really well apparently. There's some bits in there that are maybe going to be too big, and then I might have to stand up for this. We shouldn't have chosen to do this when I was just ready to go out, should I? I'm going to fish out some of these obviously really bigger pieces. Right, let's go. So she made it look so easy. Right, you do that, hold them together, tilt it back and forth to let the water run off. It looks very pretty. Is it going to be thick enough? We can't really tell yet. I think as much water has run off as it's going to. And then you take the mould off. And you slap this onto that piece of cloth. Oh God, I'm scared. Right, and then you get, well, you should have a sponge, but I haven't got a sponge. And you absorb, you press down to absorb the excess water. Sponge would be easier, I think. But when they used to do this in the old days, they probably didn't have sponges, did they? So, okay, I'm going to hope that's enough for a minute. And we'll see how thick it looks now. Please, please come up. Oh yes! it might be a little bit on the thin side. I don't know, but hey, I'm very pleased with the general sort of look of it. That's just what I was hoping for, those little bits in there. Okay, lay that out, and now you can lay them on top of each other, stack them up, ready to either spread out or hang up to dry. So let's have another piece of cloth ready. I'm going to try making a bit of a thicker one then this time, because that to me looks like it might be a bit on the thin side. I don't know, it might be just right. But let's put a bit more in. Give it a good agitate. Oh, it'd be so much fun to stir in, like, you know, onion skins and mica powder, and I don't know. I've got some gold flakes. I might have to fish some of those out next time. Oops, I tilted that bit too. Oh, no, let's go again. No, I didn't do very well there. I think I think she's called Lisa. Nevermind Paper. Like she said, it can't really go wrong, because if the worst happens, you just like brush it off like that and start again. So let's have another go. I can see how this could get quite addictive if you could get to the point where it's, you know what you're doing. Okay, let's be a bit more careful this time. Tilt it, you want to tilt it, but you don't want it all to run down to one end like I did a moment ago. Just tilt it carefully so the water drains slowly and the paper doesn't all move to one end. That's looking pretty good to me. And I guess you could do it without the mould, but you would end up with a lot of lumpy edges. Okay, I think that's as much as is going to drain off. Let's carefully lift this away. Looking okay. Slap it. This is the nerve-wracking part. Oops. And what you see Lisa kind of pressing the sponge and then squeezing it out, but I'm not finding there's enough to squeeze out at the moment. So this is where, when you slap it onto this fabric, depending on the texture of the fabric and the texture of the mesh that you're using, you'll get different finishes on the paper. So this is the other nerve-wracking bit. Will it stay on when I lift the deckle? I suppose that's why it's called. Is that why it's called deckle edge? I bet it is, isn't it? That sort of wavy edge. If you didn't have the mould, you'd have a deckle edge. Well, this one definitely looks a bit thicker. I think that's probably, I can even hold it up to the light. I think that's probably optimum thickness. It's going to thin out a bit as it dries as well, isn't it? Or if it stays looking anything like this, I'm going to be over the moon with it. Right, stack them up on top of each other. I only tore up 8 pieces, so it might be that I use these 8 pieces now and I come back tomorrow and finish up the pulp. I'm going to throw a little bit more in. It's a bit more of this pinky. I should have counted up the number of toilet roll wrappers and compared it with the number of finished sheets of paper I end up with. That'd be interesting. I'll do that next time. Okay. So I've got my deckle. I frame it over the top. Lift it up. Oh, I think this might be a bit too thick this time, I'm not sure. Oh, I think I'm going to get into this for sure. I like get little bits of letters in there as well. It'd be nice if one comes up, if I get a bit of who gives a crap. Just the word crap comes up, that'd be good, wouldn't it? I'm getting braver about that now. It's easier. The braver you are, the better, I think. It's a fairly smooth looking surface as well. And now the press came in the kit as well to, that's really soggy there now, so I'm going to swap ends I think. Yeah, time you put it in the press as well, that will smooth things out. Seems to be quite a lot in there now. I'm going to try one without adding more pulp this time. And if any big lumps come up, I'm going to leave them there. I'll be interested to see how they work anyway. I think this one might be a bit patchy, but we'll see. I like the little word that's come out there. Oh, it's pretty. As I say, I think that this one might be a bit thin, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how thin I can go. I've got 4 more to do, so I'm going to use up the sheets that I've got, and then I'm going to stop and come back to it tomorrow and add a few more ingredients in. One of the things that Lisa said was important is to really stir this up well, so all the pieces are, you know, you haven't got clumps and things. Got a little fragile edge at one, but I quite like that. I think the most satisfying bit of all of this, from watching the videos anyway, was when these are dry and you get to peel the dry sheets of paper off your cloths. That looks amazing. Right, this might be getting a bit thin on the ground now. I don't know, this one looks okay. It's amazing that you can just hang them like that and they will stay on there to dry, and you have to peel them off. I don't understand how they stay. So that's the last piece. Right, so I need to clean all this off, but it won't take me too long. I've got all of that still left. I've only used like maybe a quarter of it, if that. Yeah, I'm quite happy with these. I'm fascinated to see how well they come out. So I'm going to go and socky towels everywhere. I'm gonna go and sort this out and then get myself together, ready to go out. We're going out for a lovely slap up dinner tonight, so one of those taster menus again, which I love, with a wine flight, so I probably won't be finishing this too early in the morning. So yeah, I will come back tomorrow morning and hopefully be able to peel those off and show you how they turned out, and then I'll do the next lot as a separate video, I think, so it don't get too long. But yeah, this is a hobby I've never tried before, been meaning to try for ages, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm really pleased. That's very low tech. You could easily make that yourself, the deckle and mould. Yeah, deckle and mould. Other than that, it's mostly things you've got around the house. Yeah. Because even the press you wouldn't need, you could just do it under flat. But I love a hobby when you can do it with, yes, there are gadgets and things that make it easier and nicer, but you can do it with what you've got. I love that, and I love that it's recycling something, yeah, as well. So okay, right, very excited about that. I'm going to go off and sort myself out and have my slap up dinner now, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, I'm back. We had a lovely night out. Excuse me if I sound a little bit squiffy. It was a 7-course taster menu with a wine flight. And I nearly won the wine buff competition against all odds. Anyway, first thing I wanted to do after taking my shoes off and my slap off, because I can't stand a slap on my face. First thing I did was go and check my paper, and so that was about 4 hours since we left. I hung it up just before we left, and they're all dry. So I've actually peeled one off because I couldn't resist. I've saved the rest to look at with you, and it's the most satisfying thing in the world is peeling these things off. So let's go to the desk a minute. So this is what I poured out of what was left in the washing up bowl that I was using, and through the sieve. So I've still got, you know, that's quite a bit of pulp in there still. So out of all that pulp that I made out of that stack of toilet roll wrappers, I've still got all of this left. So I used really very little to make these sheets. I mean, really, I suppose there's not a lot of wastage. You're going to get the same kind of volume of paper pretty much coming out of the other end, aren't you? So, oops, and this is the point where you can put it in a fridge and keep it in a fridge for a few days, but they say it might go stinky, but you might have to put bleach in. Well, I don't want to do that, so we will come back and try and use it all tomorrow. Let's put all of this to one side, and let's have a look at the exciting part, which is this. So this is my first piece I've taken off. Look, I'm so pleased with it, so pleased with it. It seems fairly robust. It's a bit bowed and crinkly, so I'm gonna, this is why I thought I'll do it now rather than leave it till the morning. I want to leave it in the press overnight, the press that came in the kit, which I've now lost. So here we are. It's just these two pieces of board with kind of bolts and kind of wing nuts. So I'm going to put the pieces of paper in there, put the other piece over the top, and screw them together and leave them overnight. But you could just, if you didn't have that, you could just put them under a pile of heavy books or a carpet or something, you know, whatever you've got. So obviously these pieces of cloth that I've dried my paper on can be used over and over and over again, probably pretty much indefinitely. So this is the most satisfying bit of the whole process. So you just kind of loosen the edge a little bit, and somehow they just magically stay stuck, except for a very notable exception just there. All the others seem to have gone fine, but once you want them to come off, they come off so satisfyingly. So once I've got that little edge, I can just go, oh, look at that, how pretty. The edges of it, this is the edge that's been smack up against the fabric, and this is the edge that was just against the mesh. So, but I mean, with papers in sketchbooks and things, you always get a right side and a wrong side, don't you? Or texture side and a smoother side. They're all, I'm just going to hold it up to the light a minute. They're kind of, this one's sort of thicker here, and you can feel that it's thinner there and thicker there. You could definitely use it for rough sketches and making notes and things. And if you had one that came out, you know, say it was made out of newspaper or something, it came out quite dark, or my husband just suggested I could use some of the loads of brown paper Amazon packaging that I get. That would probably work really well, and you'd end up with like a mid-tone, this sort of a colour probably, paper, and I could definitely use that for pastel sketches and things. I love how you've got little bits like just there. Hope the camera will pick it up. The number 50's come out there for some reason. Now, this is the only one that went wrong. So this little part stayed stuck here, and the other part of this sheet ended up stuck on the back of the previous one in the pile. So I don't know which one it was. We'll come across it in a minute. I'll put that to one side. Here's another one. Let's do another satisfying peel. And it seems to be that the bigger patches of colour are on that smoother side that's next to the fabric. This whole thing, especially as it's the first time, has been so surprisingly easy, straightforward, quick to do. I would definitely be doing more of this. And other than this press, which you could easily substitute pile of heavy books or whatever, and the frames, which you could easily make up yourself, the deckle and mould you could definitely make up yourself. It's all stuff you got around the house. You do this without having to buy anything. I think this is the one. No, yes, it was the one that had this on the back, so this is where this is coming apart. And I think it's partly because this is quite a thin, yeah, this paper is generally quite a thin piece. What I might do is use this piece to just experiment with a bit of folding and things and see how robust the paper is. They vary in thickness, but not varying that much. You know, they're reasonably uniform. And it suddenly occurred to me, it probably seems really obvious to everybody except me, but this must be where the term deckle edge comes from. I think it dyes and things to make things look deckle edged. And paper that's described as deckle edged, it had never occurred to me it's because that's how it comes out as a deckle. Oh, last one. Itching to do more already. Just finished. I'm already itching to do more. So that one's a bit broken as well. But so there's definitely a right side or a right side and a wrong side, or a more colourful side. So these I'm going to put in the press just to try that out. Let's try these. Still leaving it quite fat in the middle, isn't it? Which I would have thought isn't ideal, but hey. Let's leave that, and I will come back in the morning and see how that's looking. So let's just have a little, I'm going to see just how a little bit this will cut. Yeah. Cuts leaving a nice smooth edge. How's it tear? Yeah, it reminds me of that kind of mulberry paper type of stuff, and probably it might even do that same thing where if you wet a bit like this and tear, yeah, it will tear where you've made the waterline. Let's just see how it would fold, because if I wanted to make this into little notebooks or something, I'd want to fold it. Yeah, get a nice crisp fold on it. So I'm going to leave this overnight and then come back and we'll have a look at how they look all flattened out, and that'll be the end of this video, and then I will stir some extra little bits and bobs into this mush that I've got left. Using some other things like onion skin. I threw away some onion skins earlier on now, which I'm really annoyed about. Onion skins, little mica flakes that I've got. I think that's what I'll try tomorrow. Maybe some glitter. I've got all sorts of things like that left from my kind of paper crafting days that I don't really use very much anymore, so it'd be a good way to use up some of that stuff. Okay, that's it for now. Nighty night. I'll see you in the morning. It's the next morning. I'm still sitting here in my PJs. I've got my first cup of coffee on the go. And I'm very anxious to see what my paper looks like, having been left to press overnight. It's actually quite late. It's gone 10 in the morning. Feeling a little bit the worse for wear after last night. I'm just really hoping that whatever I recorded last night wasn't embarrassingly squiffy. But hey ho, it's too late now. You've seen me at my worst now. Right. So shall we have a look? So here's a little press. It needs to be something perhaps more rigid to really pull those together, but I think that's. I'm sure I can get John or Tom to make me up a bigger one, because I've decided I definitely want to try this again with a bigger frame now. Have more usable size pieces. I can make some sweet little notebooks and things with these though. Okay, the moment of truth. It's looking good. Oh. It's easy to take that out. Oh lovely, they've gone really nice and flat. That's made a massive difference, because if you remember, they were all really, well, you will remember because it's only a few seconds since you saw it. But they were really curly. That's made them nice and flat. This was the side that was against the sheet, so it's because the fabric is quite smooth. Yeah, I think that's the side that was against the sheet. And that's the side that was against the mesh. I feel a bit, I haven't woken up yet, I feel a bit waffly. Okay, I'm going now. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you've had a go at paper. Have you got any tips? Have you tried anything that might be fun for me to try? Yeah, what do you think? My new favourite hobby. Okay, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.